Hello, I'm Barry Kennedy, and I will be presenting today my report on the birthplace of the Second Great Awakening. I had intended to give this presentation on the grounds of the Red River Meeting House, which is regarded as the home of the Second Great Awakening. However, due to COVID and the fact that our county, Logan County, is in the Red River Meeting House, along with just about everything else, is currently closed as I record this. So because of this, I'm recording from my office at home, and I do apologize. It is important to note that first, where exactly is Kentucky and Logan County? Where is Logan County in terms of Kentucky? Well, in this particular case, Logan County is the county in red. We are in southern Kentucky, what's sometimes referred to as south central Kentucky. And originally, Logan County stretched all the way from right over here, which is where roughly the Little Barren River is, and stretched all the way this way over to the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. And this was the case in 1800. So Logan County was a massive county. In addition to this, it's important to discuss very briefly what were the people like in Logan County before the revival took place. Well, we must realize that in many ways, Kentucky is the original Wild West. And many of the people that came to Kentucky were literally one or two steps ahead of the law that was after them. They had committed crimes such as murder, theft, along with numerous other horrible things. And a lot of people came to Kentucky to escape the law. And because of this, especially in southern Kentucky and in Logan County, which was the third largest county in 1800 in the state, violence was very common. In fact, future famed Methodist preacher Peter Cartwright will refer to Logan County as being Rogues Harbor. It was sometimes also referred to as Satan's playground or Satan's stronghold. The people of this area were known to be very rough. They were known to do a whole lot of fighting, a whole lot of drinking, a whole lot of killing. And again, Peter Cartwright and others said that the people of Logan County needed the Lord. People of Logan County needed religion. This is important from the standpoint of this is the group that James McCready is going to come to in either the latter part of 1796 or very early in 1797. There is a little bit of speculation in terms of exactly when he came, but it was either the latter part of 1796 or the early part of 1797. At this point in time, Logan County's only been a county for almost 5 years. There's lots of violence. There's lots of people coming in and out of the area. The Hart brothers, which were some notorious gangsters, will come through later. It is just a real not a safe place that you would want to live. Again, Peter Cartwright said, the people of Logan County need religion. And enter James McCready. James McCready was born in Pennsylvania. He will spend some time in North Carolina before going back to Pennsylvania. And as I stated, sometime in 1796, the very late part or the early part of 1797, he comes to Logan County and is put in charge of 3 congregations. Those 3 congregations are the Mud River, which is sometimes referred to as the Muddy River Meeting House, the Gasper River Meeting House, and the Red River Meeting House. Of all 3 of these, we only know where the Red River Meeting House was for sure. The other 2, we're exactly not for sure. We know a general area, but we don't know really for sure. It is interesting that they call these Presbyterian churches meeting houses instead of churches because they were used in their community, not just for church, but for any form of meeting or anything of that particular nature. Now, James McCready himself is a very interesting individual. He has these three congregations, and in addition to these three congregations, according to some early sources, he will also end up being a school teacher teaching language in the city of Russellville. In addition to this, McGrady was a hellfire and brimstone type preacher. What sometimes people refer to as the good old revival type preachers, where they lay out the gospel, they lay out the threat of hell, the damnation and the damaging nature of sin, and in a lot of ways they use their voice, they use this message to try to bring about conviction on to the people. So needless to say, when he first comes to Logan County, there's not a whole lot of results. There's not a whole lot of things going on. In fact, he writes, according to many of the early sources, and Darlin Moore, who is one of the caretakers of the cemetery, or the grounds in the cemetery at the Red River Meeting House, that he was very disappointed by the lack of souls being saved. And he encouraged his congregations to start praying for God to move and for souls to be saved. And from all accounts, each of the three churches, somewhere in the period of 1798 and 1799, started to fervently pray for revival. They started to pray for God to move. As a part of this, McGrady himself also adopted a life of prayer and also a devotion. He dedicated himself to make sure that the people of Logan County, the people of his congregations, would come to know the Lord. And in 1797, according to one source, there seemed to be a little bit of light. There seemed to be a little bit of hope in the Gasper River Meeting House. There seemed to be a few conversions. There seemed to be some people who were starting to get on board in terms of turning away from their sinful lifestyle and turning themselves over to the Lord and his ministry. However, things are still really slow to process. And then, in roughly the year 1799, things start to pick up. In all three of his churches, in all three of his congregations, there starts to be more people who are saved, more people who are making professions of faith. Now, the interesting thing about this is my preacher would say all this happened because God's people devoted themselves to prayer. God's people devoted themselves to praying and potentially fasting for lost souls. And they wanted to see God move. As the calendar turned to 1800, services really start to pick up. Now, instead of just a few people coming to the services, more and more people are starting to come. We're getting into, as the caretaker of the Red River Meeting House said, we're getting probably in the neighborhood of now, instead of 20 or 30 people coming, the number's probably getting closer to 50. And everything is really going to explode as you see this map of Logan County. This is the city of Russellville right in the middle. Right here's the city of Adairville, and right here where the mouse is, right in this area, is the current home of the Red River Meeting House. Now, James McCready himself, this is what he looked like a few years before his death. He is the key central figure. However, he will be joined in the summer of 1800 as the revival sessions really start to pick up by the McGee brothers. And the McGee brothers, much like McGrady, were outstanding speakers. They spoke with passion. They spoke with emotion. They spoke, again, with what sometimes people refer to as the hellfire and brimstone type of message. This is the historical marker for the Gasper River Meeting House. It says it's one of three churches that Reverend James McGrady, a Presbyterian minister, had, and that, it started the Great Frontier Revival between 1797 and 1805. This is the particular historical marker for the Red River Meeting House. The Red River Meeting House is the central location and is regarded as the birthplace of the Second Great Awakening because of what happened in June 1800. Now, as we go into this next part of the presentation, this is what the Red River Meeting House looks like today. It has been rebuilt, it has been refurnished, and they have done everything they can to try to make this building look very similar to the way it would have in 1800. There's even the two entrances, the one on the right for men and the one on the left for women, to enter the church doors, because during this time period, men and women did not enter the same door. So, McGrady is there. The McGee brothers are on the scene. More and more people were attending these services. McGrady had started earlier doing 4-day-long services starting on Thursday that would end on Sunday with communion. And the interesting thing about these services is that it was almost like an arc in terms of a beginning, a middle, and an end. And what they wanted to do was to present the gospel, lots of prayer, lots of singing on the first few days, and then on Saturday to really ramp up the service in terms of the preaching, what has sometimes been referred to as great emotional singings and things like that. And people came from all over. In June of 1800, you have the biggest of these sessions so far, where literally hundreds of people have came and are attending these services. They are using the mourner's bench. The mourner's bench was used as a ritualistic space for revival attendees to who felt moved and were on the verge of conversion. They could go and they could solicit prayers. They got special attention. They were brought closer to the speakers. As one preacher would speak and would get tired, maybe preaching from the back of a wagon or a stump or something like that, he would get fatigued. Another preacher would take off almost immediately. And the thing about this is, the people responded. The people responded in dozens and dozens over these camp meeting days are going to become saved. They are going to come to know the Lord. And the interesting thing about this is, as the revival sessions are getting bigger, curiosity is running rampant. People are literally traveling over 100 miles from Tennessee, from other parts of Kentucky, to come to the Red River Meeting House to see what is going on. As the communion is at the peak of the revival session on the Sunday, it's common that people were responded to the Holy Spirit, to the gospel, in ways that people had never seen before. People were known to cry. They were known to swoon. They were known to run. They were known to shout. Some people fainted. People danced. People screamed. As all these are going on, even some people reportedly made a noise that could only be described as it sounded as if a dog was barking. But they had been overcome by the Spirit. They were answering the call in terms of salvation or repentance from their sinful ways. And as these revival sessions really take off in Logan County, it goes from Red River and Gasper River and Muddy Rivers included, and all of a sudden churches in Russellville are included, and it spans all over the state. And then the year 1801, which some people regard in terms of in Kentucky as being the largest or the greatest year for revival sessions. And it is in that year that you have the very famous Cane Ridge revival session or revival meeting. Cane Ridge is very close to Lexington. And needless to say, what happened, supposedly by some accounts, 20,000 people attended this revival. Now, many historians have greatly speculated and said that, there may have been 10,000 people there, possibly 15. 20,000 is an insane number in terms of the likelihood of that happening. Now, I don't want to say it didn't happen because I wasn't there. But the historians of the day do kind of speculate as to whether there were really 20,000 people there or not. But it really doesn't matter. I think the people that are trying to put the number on the people there, what they're really saying is there's a massive amount of people here. And there are so many people here that there has to be thousands, maybe even 20,000. These sessions, led by a Presbyterian minister by the name of Barton Stone, who invited Baptists and Methodists and other Presbyterian preachers to come and take part of the revival in August. And between August 6th and the 8th is this big window when this big revival meeting took place. And people came and they heard the gospel. Much like in Logan County at Red River Meeting House, people responded in a strange manner in terms of running, falling on the ground, shaking, having convulsions, and doing things that, again, people found to be very different. The revival will continue to spread. It will spread outside of Kentucky, into Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, New York, and countless other areas of the then United States. And while there's some speculation as to whether this revival, the Frontier Revival or the Second Great Awakening, was it truly bigger than the First Great Awakening? Well, that's debatable, and I think that we sometimes get into too big of debates in terms of, well, this was the biggest, this was the greatest, or whatever. But the important part is thousands and thousands of people came to know the Lord. They were saved. Backslidden Christians, those people that were running rampant in Logan County, Rogues Harbor, killing, plundering, theft, robbery, all those things, people repented. Now, the very interesting aspect of this is that the individual that is at the heart of the beginning of the revival, James McCready, as the revival continued in Kentucky, he started to turn against the revival. He believed that the preachers were too laxed on doctrinal issues. He believed that they did not fulfill or follow completely the Westminster Confessions. He believed that they were not of good, sound theology. And it's interesting, the man that helped spark the revival, the man that God used as his tool to get the revival started, turns against it. He believes that it has gotten too laxed in terms of theology. Very interesting. Is kind of a note to the end of the Second Great Awakening. According to Brother Kaufman, Edward Kaufman, in his book, The Story of Logan County, Kaufman has some of McCready's original letters and documentation. He said for example, in June 1800, there were at least 10 persons converted at Red River Meeting House. July 1800 at Gasper River, there were at least 20 to 30 wagons. People came as far as 100 miles. Dozens converted. Muddy River in August of 1800 is potentially even larger than the meetings at Gasper River. There were 50 people converted. So needless to say, people's lives were changed. They were awarded or came to accept salvation. The interesting thing about this in terms of results, and by the way, here are some pictures given to me by Darlene Moore, the caretaker of the Red River Meeting House. Some very famous paintings depicting the Second Great Awakening. In terms of, you see people falling over, you see people swooning, you see people with great excitement. This third picture on the right, they still do camp meetings today at the Red River Meeting House. They pray for revival. They pray for the health of the nation today, 220 years after the revival occurred. But in terms of short-term results or consequences of the revival, a group of people came to Kentucky. These people were known as the Shakers. The Shakers were a celibate group of people that believed men and women should live equal lives but separate lives. They founded 2 colonies in Kentucky, one Pleasant Hill, which is up near Lexington, and 2 in South Union, which is in the northeastern part of modern-day Logan County. The current picture is of the center house at the South Union Shaker Colony. Of course, the Shakers ceased to exist in terms of Kentucky in 1922. They were greatly, especially at South Union, decimated by the Civil War. But why did the Shakers come to Kentucky? They came to Kentucky. This group that came to Logan County especially, they came because they thought the people had religion. They wanted to be a part of those communities because they believed the people to be of good, sound judgment and of good, moral, godly character, according to Tommy Hines, who is the curator of the museum at the South Union Shaker Colony. That's why they came. And interestingly, this group of people will be one of the first in Kentucky to truly be anti-slavery. There will be free African Americans, free blacks that will live at the Shaker colonies. What are some of the other results of the Second Great Awakening? Well, some historians have said, well, most of the people that were saved or got religion backslid in the days and months after the revival meeting stopped. And for some, I'm sure that to be the case. However, another consequence that goes to show that that may not be exactly right in terms of a large group of people is that in the early 1800s, especially in my county of Logan County, there are countless churches that are going to be built and constructed, especially of Baptist and Methodist faith, that are a result of the Second Great Awakening. While some people definitely did backslide, many people continued the work. Many people continued to pray for God's movement and for revival to take place in Kentucky and in Logan County. Needless to say, this is kind of the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoy. I hope it was informative. And at the same time, I do again want to apologize that I was not able to film on location, but due to COVID, things were closed. So I do apologize for that. Thank you.